So today's review is of the Hifiman Sundara, a planar magnetic open back headphone that is now retailing for $350. When it first released, it was selling at $500, but with the new price, it has become one of the most competitive headphones at its price point. Starting off with the build. The Hifiman Sundara is a fairly well built headphone. Most of its construction is of metal. As you can see, we do have metal hinges, metal headband, metal cups, a very solid feeling headphone. In fact, one of the most solid feeling headphones from Hifiman thus far. The cable itself is quite a springy rubber material, and it is light. It is quite a nice length. However, it does have the problem of being a little too springy. So while it is fairly light and comfortable, it does get in the way sometimes. Starting with the build itself, you've got a very nice headband, which is a suspension strap. It is a fake leather, a fox leather, but it still gets the job done. It does feel very durable, and the curvature hugs your head quite nicely, so it does suspend the weight very well. The cups themselves are aluminium, I believe, and the grills are again a nice industrial look that feels quite sturdy. Other than that, you have these really solid middle hinges. You've got a adjusting mechanism that can be a little harsh at times. It does feel a bit ratchety, but it does feel like it's a mechanism that won't break, mainly due to the fact that it doesn't swivel. Headband itself is a metal followed by the leather strap, and as you can see, it is a little bit tough to get it open. That is one of the problems. When you do adjust the mechanism, you do end up scratching the inside of the headband, and while it is only cosmetic, it would be nice if that didn't happen. The pads themselves are a hybrid pad with a spandex material for the area that touches your head. So these pads are definitely more comfortable than the older Hifiman hybrid pads. However, they still aren't as comfortable as oval Hifimans due to the fact that for some people with larger ears, it might end up pressing against the top of your ear. However, for most people, the vast majority of people, in fact, you won't have any issues. So starting off with the sound. The sound of this headphone I would describe as a very airy but neutral presentation. What I mean by that is, starting off with the bass, you have a bass that is quite linear and quite dynamic for its price. I think that the Hifiman Sundara is a headphone that has a great amount of thump, a kick to it. I wouldn't call it a thick bass, however, it is very fast, very linear, and very accurate. On top of that, you have a very linear mid-range as well. That's a theme you'll see throughout all the frequency ranges in this headphone. The mid-range is very linear. You have a great mid-range balance between the lower mids and the upper mids, so that you get plenty of body with vocals, as well as the proper airiness, the proper angelic quality that you'll see with some female vocals. And other than that, in the treble, you will have this headphone has remarkable resolving quality, and that's an area where I want to focus on today, because that's the area of this headphone which is the most resolving. The driver in this headphone claims to have a 70% thinner diaphragm compared to older Hifiman models, and it really comes through in the treble, because the treble in this headphone is incredibly fast, incredibly responsive, and very detailed. It almost has that electrostatic presentation where it just sounds very fast and very detailed. And that is quite remarkable to see at something at this price point. In fact, I think that the treble is almost as detailed as the Hifiman Ananda, which is a significantly more expensive headphone that competes at very high price points. So the treble resolution of this headphone is leagues above most of its competition. Other than that, the technical ability of the bass and the mid-range, I think, are no slouch either. They're definitely worth the price, and while they may not be top of the price point, they are definitely near the top. So overall, as a whole package, I think detail on this headphone is phenomenally done. One gripe I do have is that the treble, for people who prefer a warmer signature coming from a HD 600 or 650, it might seem a little bit sharp, but for most people, that won't be an issue at all. And other than that, the upper treble is slightly elevated to give it a little bit extra air, a little bit extra shimmery quality to it without detracting from music. Because in some headphones, such as some Beyerdynamics, I think the T1 had a shimmery quality that got in the way of the music. In this case, it is very tasteful, only appears when needed. So overall, the dynamics of this headphone are quite good. I wouldn't say they are the top of the price point. I do think that stuff like the Fostex X00s or the Beyerdynamic 1990s have better slam. However, the dynamics on this headphone are still really good, especially in the treble and the mid-range. And the soundstage is another highlight of this headphone. The soundstage of this headphone has a good amount of width, but really, really tall height. And if you compare to something like a DT1990 or a HD660, it definitely can present a vertical image that the other two cannot. So that is a key selling point of this headphone. The vertical presentation that it can achieve to a lesser extent than the Hifiman Ananda or the Hifiman Aria or the HG1000, but it is still noticeably much taller than most other headphones in its price point. Other than that, the imaging is again very tight, very detailed, and it is very easy to pinpoint and separate every instrument in the mix. So overall, this is a headphone that competes far above its price point. This is a headphone that I think sits at the position of benchmark for the sub $500 market. It is a headphone that I would take over pretty much any competitor in this price point, and I would consider against headphones far above its price point. While it doesn't beat things like the LCD 2C or the Hifiman Ananda, the fact that it can be talked about in the same conversation speaks volumes of how good this headphone is.